What's happening, folks? It's Tactard Ted, and it's Monday, and I don't even know the date. Isn't that terrible? I don't know what day it is. No, I don't know the date. It's a Monday after the attack on the Kerch Bridge, which happened on late Friday night our time. It was Saturday morning at 06 local time. And apparently the new Russian commander, Surovikin, isn't dicking around because there is a whole laundry list of things that got fucked up last night in Ukraine, including, I believe, the thermal power plant for Kiev, Lviv, however you want to call it. That place no longer has possibility of thermal heating because the Russians took all that out. Also, apparently electrical infrastructure. And I would like to personally thank the terrorist in the Yuko-Nazi army who decided that they wanted to attack the Kerch Bridge, because if they had not attacked the Kerch Bridge, none of this would have happened. And it was high time. It was high time that Russia go ahead and put a hurt on those folks, because in the West, nobody really understands war. They really don't understand the whole idea of killing people and breaking shit. I think one of the big problems has been with that has been with the West is that we are so used to trying to fight a war with one hand wrapped around our testicles that we get appalled when somebody else tries to do it. Amazing to me that when the Russians show restraint, we're going to portray it as weakness. I always said everybody thinks that our restraint when we go in and do things is perceived to be weak, and it is. Yet the United States, who always talks about how we have to be restrained and preaches restraint, yet when Russia goes in a restrained manner, in a very limited manner, we perceive it as weakness and broadcast it to the heavens that somehow Russia is weak, Russia is inept, Russia doesn't have this, Russia's running out of that. Well, all those cruise missiles that Russia didn't have anymore, I think last night and today in Ukraine is proving that they do indeed have them. So it's interesting to watch a lot of the Ukrainian Telegram channels, the same people who were shouting to the heavens and praising the fact that they had a failed terrorist attack on the Kerch Bridge, a failed terrorist attack because it only knocked out traffic across that bridge for about 14 hours. And the majority of that was while the Russian authorities did a safety check on the bridge to make sure it was safe for vehicular traffic. And so the span of vehicular traffic is going well. They've reversed one lane. The rail traffic, which is the most important part of the bridge complex, there's actually 3 lines there. One is heading one direction, one is heading the other direction, which now is heading both directions. And then you have the rail bridge. The rail bridge is the important part because that is where all your tanks and military equipment are coming in. The Ukrainians failed to take that out. And so I can't say that their attack was very much of a success. The news is coming out that the truck driver didn't even know he was carrying a bomb. So basically what happened was the Ukrainians targeted a man for death who is not a member of the military or does not have a connection with military infrastructure. They just decided to kill this guy as a vehicle to get to what they wanted. That's terrorism, guys. That is. And just in case you have forgotten, Daria Dugina was exploded in a car in Moscow by Ukrainians. That's called terrorism, my dear friends. That is terrorism. And in case you've missed it, over the weekend, video is surfaced from one of the Azov guys, the terrorists that parade around in uniforms pretending to be military, where they were dumping civilian bodies into a pit near Kupiansk, talking about how they were eradicating collaborators. So what you're basically saying is they're going around summarily executing people based on whatever they think is justifiable evidence, and a lot of these people turning out to be school teachers, policemen, firefighters, anybody who continued to do their job after the Russians occupied their town. And they're simply shooting them and dumping them into a pit. That's the sort of thing, if I remember correctly, there was these bunch of guys in the 40s did that same sort of shit. Their leader was a little guy with a little mustache. I'm sorry that his name escapes me. That used to be the sort of thing that we would call out and call bullshit on and say, hey, that's not cool, that's not how you do shit. But now we're supporting it, we're celebrating it. So, Banderistan, formerly known as Ukraine, has this really, really great habit of just being Ukro-terrorist. I mean, that's exactly what they are, dude. One terrorist attack to blow up a 30-year-old chick in Moscow, a terrorist attack where they murdered a truck driver so they could do a failed attack on a bridge that didn't stop all traffic for more than 14 hours. And now they're just killing civilians because, hey, we think they may have worked with the Russians. That school teacher dared to go to school and teach kids after the Russians occupied that. Oh, no, she's got to go. That firefighter continued to put out fires after our army left and the Russians came. Oh, no, that guy's a collaborator. He's got to go. Oh, these police officers, they stayed on the job to protect their community. They swore to protect. No, they're collaborators. They got to die. And we're enabling that. We're applauding that. We're just, that is just such a wonderful deal that Ukraine is now engaging in terrorism. And the same people who applauded the Ukrainian terrorism are sitting there crying their eyes out that the Russian military is attacking infrastructure and doing it without being terrorist. It's also, let's see, I think it's so effective right now. The Ukrainians actually, from what I understand, have suspended all in-person learning. Now everybody has to have homeschooling. They've got to go school from home and shelter. I don't understand that Ukraine is losing internet. Internet's disrupted in a lot of places again. Starlink isn't working like they thought it would. And so I'm not sure how you're planning on educating these kids at home. I really think that they're afraid that the Russians are going to copy their tactic of blowing up schools. The Ukrainians are really good at either occupying schools for their military, and that may be what they're doing. They may be saying, hey, you guys all got to stay home because we're going to start using your schools as barracks, because apparently over the weekend we pretty much proved that Ukrainian army barracks are now a target, especially those where foreign fighters are. There are a lot of people that went all the way to Ukraine to die, and the Russians are making that happen. Just a little aside here, I just find it highly humorous that we live in a day and age when the right-wing lunatics, the right-wing nuts as they're called by the leftists, are the guys who are wanting prosperity and peace and calling for an end to this, and the left is just so unhinged. There will be no peace. There'll be peace when Putin leaves, when the Russians leave Ukraine. Oh, no. And the terrorism, that was a great, brilliant stroke. Blowing up a fucking innocent truck driver so we could hit the Kerch Bridge. That'll show Putin. Okay, that'll show Putin. The left is just so unhinged. They're just such a violent bunch of morons. And it's not just the left, because there are a bunch of conservative-minded folks that are somehow being fooled via whatever, Russophobia, whatever shit's left over from the Cold War, what have you. These folks are being fooled into hating people that are a lot more like us, and when I say us, I mean conservative-minded folks, than the Ukrainians are. The Ukrainians are definitely left. They're definitely left, and the more radicals in their government are, they're not just socialists, they're national socialists. So you just have to deal with that, folks. I remember for years they used to try to say, and I won't use the other name for National Socialism because everybody seems to have a problem with that. But for years we used to say that they used to try to pull this shit that National Socialism was right wing, all socialism is left wing. And you need to grasp that and understand that socialism is socialism, whether it's worldwide socialism or whether it's national socialism. Now, as far as everything's going, I think we're going to see a rapid escalation. The new Russian forces commander in Ukraine, from what I understand, has been given the green light on everything up to, but not including, nuclear weapons. So this guy can use a lot of shit and use it at his own discretion. And he says, under my watch, the enemy's day will not begin with a cup of coffee. And I believe he's now the new commander is going to be conducting a traditional war. In other words, they are going to go after infrastructure. They are going to go after the military sleeping in their barracks. They are going to do the things that one would expect in a war. And it amazes me, once again, we were talking about the restraint thing, that, we preach restraint, we preach a targeted response, but yet when somebody else does that, we consider it a weakness. And I think maybe being an American who loves my country and believes that if you're going to go to war, you do it right, whether I agree with that war or not, it still should be conducted in a manner that gets it over with quickly. I think maybe we ought to look at this whole thing about when we decide that we're not going to go all out, that we're not all or nothing, that we're going to be limited. Maybe we ought to think about how we looked at Russia and understand that when we use these limited responses, the rest of the world looks at us like that. I mean, it's just a thought. So anyhow, folks, I'm sure that after I get all my stuff done today and have a chance to fully digest everything on Telegram, and from what I've seen this morning on Telegram, the Russian channels are just going nuts. They're a lot like the Ukrainian channels were Friday night into Saturday morning, but there's a difference. These attacks are actually making progress. They're not publicity stunts. That's the one thing that I found out during this entire conflict that really is kind of disheartening, is that we as Americans seem to be more attracted to the publicity stunts than actual progress. Oh, look at this, this is great. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. And let's be honest with it, 1 to 2 months, the section of bridge that was damaged is going to be repaired. So I'm not exactly sure what everyone is all applauding, because I will tell you what, the stuff that was taken down in the last 24 hours in Ukraine, that shit's not going to be back up in a month. Not unless the Russians win and start fixing shit for the Ukrainians. But the Ukrainians themselves aren't getting all that shit back together. And it seems that we just don't have a grasp of reality. I think that's part of the problem with there not being conscription in the United States, is nobody has an idea of the military, how it works, or what it takes to kill people and blow shit up. Because that's what the military was designed for, to kill people and blow shit up. So anyhow, folks, after I get a good look at today, I'll probably give you guys a hoot before I go to work. Now I'm out and about doing dad shit. I'm out buying stuff for the kids for their lunch for the week at school, because I pack my lunch because I don't trust anything the state's going to provide for my kids. And then I got one or two other little things I need to do this morning, but I'm going to catch a couple hours sleep and then delve into Telegram. So anyhow, folks, y'all have a good one. Take care.